Okay, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge of allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America,
to the republic
which stands
one
one
nation,
nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. We don't have any public comments tonight, so moving right along to communications of the superintendent.
Good evening, Board of Education and community members. I know it looks like there's a lot of items under my agenda, but most of them are action items. The first two items are action items for our bonds. Both are refunding of our 2016 series, which is item number 1, as well as item number 2, which is the bond, which are the lease certificates, excuse me, for the new Career and Technical Center. And that amount says not to exceed $15 million. We are looking more along the lines of 14.5 million and any additional fees. So, Madam President, I would just like to ask you to call those first two motions before I move on to our next presentation.
Okay. Motion to approve the resolution providing the issue not to exceed $8.8 million of general obligation refunding school bonds for the purpose of refunding certain outstanding bonds and providing for the levy of the district's annual tax efficiency to pay the principal of said interest and said bonds, of said principal and said bonds.
So moved. Second.
Any questions? Secretary, call the roll.
Schubert,
Yes.
Guerrero,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Arroyo,
Yes.
Olivas,
Yes.
LaShay.
Yes.
Okay. Motion to approve the resolution authorizing and providing for the lease agreement for the purpose of building and equipping a new school building and improving the site thereof, providing for the issuance of not to exceed $15 million general obligation lease certificates, limited tax, and providing for the security for the means of payment under said lease agreement.
So moved. Second.
Any questions?
I have some questions. I'm all for us doing this, but do we have a budget? Do we have a real kind of number to shoot for? Is it 40 or is it 43 or what are we,
It's 40.
40?
It was 40.
And the architects agree with that? Okay. Okay.
Okay. All right. Okay. Call the roll. I think we got a motion.
Arroyo,
Yes.
LaShay,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Guerrero,
Yes.
Schubert,
Yes.
Olivas.
Yes.
And the next item on the agenda is a career and slight typo there, Career and Technical Center update. And we have with us this evening our architect, lead architect, Richard Blair from Cordigan Clark and Associates. You would like Andy to pull up maybe his first?
We have it.
Oh, okay. So you can zoom in on those parts. Thank you.
So, yeah, thanks for having us here tonight. We're just here to kind of update you on where we're at, where the building's starting to go, and kind of some general outlook. So I know we've shared a little bit with you, but we want to keep you guys updated as we move along in the process. So we do have some images here that we'll share with you. And we'll kind of talk this through with you. So we have started talking with your staff about the spaces, and we'll go into that a little bit, but we've been focused on the exterior as well. Sorry, our program takes a lot of energy, so it's taking a second to flip over.
It's a very cool program, though. I'm always impressed.
It is. All right. So the first thing you'll see here is a site plan. This is going to kind of allow you to know the layouts. So if you guys know the site well, hopefully you do. Indian Trail is on the south side. Mitchell Road is on the east side. And then the ECC in Benavides is to the west of the new building. We're looking at providing parking on the east side of the building with bus lanes on the north side of the building, which will be separated from the regular traffic. Parent drop off on the east, and then some connection to the ECC as well in that layout. We're looking at some detention in the far southwest corner. And then we're trying to provide some green space around the building as we move around it. Here we go. So on the interior, you'll see that we have a couple areas, the areas are indicated in green based off the use, colors based off the use. The classrooms are in green on the south side of the building. That is a 2-story space, and we're kind of keeping those along the front side. And then the technical spaces tend to be along the north side of the building and kind of flow over into the existing structure to the west. We are looking at trying to group them based off their uses so that similar spaces can utilize the same thing. So obviously our construction trades and wood shop tend to use a lot of the same tools and same materials. And then we're also providing some green spaces around the building. On the north side, you'll see that there's some pavement back there. That's to allow construction trades to potentially build inside, pull their sheds or whatever they're constructing inside, outside. And move it off to site or to construct outside, as well as other gathering spaces for them to do things as well.
Something I think it's important to note. This is preliminary. And I know that Asa Gordon is working alongside us. He's on our weekly calls. I believe he's reached out to the teachers in those areas so that we could do similar to the Resilience Center and bring those teachers in so that they can talk about some specific needs. Some of this was our preliminary walkthrough, and we talked to the teacher. For example, Mr. Klinger, before he retired, he was at East, and we talked to him, and he said the next construction trades room has to have a door that goes up for the outside. And so Rich went ahead and built that into the design. So these are direct feedback, but we're going to pull the teachers in to be able to ask them greater questions for all of these spaces for which they teach and have taught for years, so that we are able to really magnify this space and have it be something that is really ideal, as well as the best that's available for our students. So I just wanted to say that because you've done quite a rendition, but they just need to know in case some additional tweaks, our staff.
So we have started those meetings already and met with some of the
Oh,
teachers,
good.
and we're starting on our first rendition, and we'll have follow-up meetings with them as well. So we'll take their ideas, we'll put it in, make sure that it's working. So it's a back and forth conversation to make sure these spaces work out right. These are not common spaces. It's not as simple as a typical math or English classroom that we do over and over again. These are specialty spaces, and we want to make sure that they're going to meet the needs, and not only for now, but in the future as well.
Who's this?
Sorry. Okay. The next image here is the lecture hall. So we've looked at providing a lecture hall that will house at least 100 students. This will allow you guys to bring in multiple classes, bring in someone from outside the school district and be able to speak to them. The idea here is that it's multiple tier, kind of like a college. So each one will table with a movable chair, and then it is stacked with the ability to come in from the first floor or the second floor to access the space. You can see that we have stairways on both sides, one down the center, and then we are looking at potentially some balconies above that would look down into that space as well. Bathrooms were another piece that we're looking at, just kind of looking forward in the way that society is going and trying to keep things a lot more secure for our students and safe for them, as well as giving the ability to kind of be able to check and monitor those spaces. So one of the forward-thinking ideas nowadays is looking at creating private stalls for students to go into. They're full height, so there's no you can't look underneath or over them, but then creating a general shared sink area, and then creating areas where you can see back into those spaces so that the teachers can monitor those spaces as well.
Because I know it's a distance. One side would be, we could allocate for girls and the other side for boys, but it really wouldn't matter because these are individual stalls and individual doors. So we're moving. This is very futuristic, but I think this is something that respects everyone's privacy, and no matter what they choose, that's just a bathroom that we could safely monitor for all kids. So no more going in there to set yourself up to do anything, because as you can see on the side, you can see all the way back to the very back of the bathroom. And then the area that people like to loiter, which is mirrors and hand washing, that becomes not so fun because you're basically in the hallway. So
And other school districts are using this concept
yeah,
It
you
is
can speak
starting
to
to
that
take
more.
off. Yeah.
Newer
in
buildings.
Illinois.
A few. It's still new, and we're talking about future ideas and thinking this forward in how we're approaching this. So we have done this in other schools. Mostly, I've done a handful in Missouri, but we are starting to see other schools in this area looking at it as well.
I was going to say, I think it's great you're speaking to the teachers, but West Aurora has a beautiful vocational center, as does Hampshire,
Oh, yeah.
and I think it might be worth talking to I would think they'd be willing
Yes.
to.
Yeah, and as well as not only West Aurora, but we've also looked at other facilities. We've taken a tour of Wabanzi. Their site in Plano is, and it's cool because it's beautiful, but they said they learned from so many mistakes. So when our team and our architects, I believe you were on that tour with them, they went through, they said, don't do this. I mean, down to hand washing in the manufacturing labs. And they told us about things to do or not do. And I know Mr. Schubert asked us a while ago to go visit some of these other sites. So the team has been doing that. That's a great suggestion. They've been on it. And there's also the DuPage facility that is massive, and it's a high tech.
Correct.
Yeah.
And because you guys don't have teachers for some of these classes right now, we are looking at working with some of these other facilities where they already have the experience, so that they can give us feedback on what does and doesn't work.
For example, aviation.
Yes.
That's definitely definitely one of the only high schools in the area that would have the aviation for aviation mechanics.
So here's the first rendering. We looked at two schemes, or we proposed a handful of schemes, and we kind of narrowed it down to two that we're proposing right now. This is one of them, and what we're trying to do here is allow some light into the building, but also look at some energy efficiency with it. So with this, we're providing some shading over the windows. What this does is it allows in the summertime to block a lot of that summer light from coming in and the heat that comes in with that light. But it also allows for a shelf that can allow some light to bounce around up along the ceiling. And then in the winter, due to the overhang, it would allow for that light to come in when in the colder months and allow some of that additional heat to come in as well. So a little forward thinking there, as well as kind of giving some signage here and kind of letting people drive by, know what that facility is for and what it's being used for.
I have to say this again because it's really bothered me, but the blue that you see is not a shading. That's just a reflection of the sky off of what will be glass panes. So it will not be a red and blue exterior. And I did share that I shared that in B&G, but I need to say that as we look at this, that was the most alarming thing. Other than that, it's beautiful, but it will be the red, and it will be the glass will be clear, not blue. So
Correct.
I did ask you about
Yeah.
that.
No, that's a valid point. The rendering program only allows us to do so much, and some things come across a lot better than others, but it is a representation of where we're going, and Dr. Norell's right. They will not be blue windows. So
And then we don't need to share the other one because we're kind of out of B&G. We're just going to go with the first one. So
yeah. So okay.
if you're okay with that.
Any other questions?
The first one's more cost effective.
Yes. And this is the more cost effective.
Yeah,
And it's
there you
nice.
go.
Yeah, signage.
Mhm.
Okay.
We're looking at options right now. So part of what we're doing in these beginning stages is working with civil engineers, and we're looking at water detention and how we have to shed water. And we are talking about options there. Some of it comes back to cost. So obviously permeable pavers are beautiful and are nice and would help out, but some of it's cost. There are potentials where we can use some flower beds around it instead of curbing it and allow the water to go in that way. So we've started those discussions. On my end, I haven't shared all that with Dr. Norell yet, but we're working on solutions, and that will probably be in our next meeting what we talk about.
Flower beds are beautiful.
Solar panels, hopefully.
So we have not looked
No.
at solar panels at this point.
I think we should look at it at least. Right? I mean, to put on the roof, building a new building. Now's the time to save our money? Because there's so many grants out there for it.
Right now, I know we're having conversations. Remember to meet with Train is doing our looking at all of our renditions to be able to utilize just our classic HVAC equipment to be able to use ESSER dollars to make those purchases. So I'm not sure how that would play into that, but I think what we're designing now is not using solar energy,
Correct at this point.
right?
it's not.
Because remember, we have to have that obligated by September 30th.
I think you could have rooftop units with solar panels. Everyone does it. I really think we could look into it.
Oh, okay.
For sure.
We can look at options and have those
Yeah,
discussions.
that's
so.
great. Yep.
Yeah.
But we just wouldn't need to buy as much equipment then.
Right.
Okay.
Anything else?
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks. Sorry. There are a couple more items. We have our student tracker MOU. And again, just to remind the board, I know that you did get the copy of the MOU. Student trackers were brought to the labor board for their position when they changed from CVAC to tracker positions. And they were placed in our IFT union in the clerical portion of the bargaining unit. And so this is just the MOU that HR and the leadership of IFT worked on for several months. And it was delayed in their House of Delegates and is now here for approval. It has passed and cleared their House of Delegates. So it is here for the board for the formal adoption of that MOU since they were not in the last contract. This would get us until we have them in the permanent contract.
Okay. Motion to approve the student tracker memorandum of understanding.
So move.
Second.
Any questions? Secretary call the roll.
Schubert,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Guerrero,
Yes.
Olivas.
Yes.
Arroyo, LaShay.
Yes.
The next item is simply an action item that we are using grant dollars for, which is why it's brought straight to the board for action. There are 3 schools in the district that are considered in status that have to pick a learning partner. And so we wanted to do, as we have done in the past, it worked out well, not just have a learning partner to direct 1 elementary and 2 middle schools to do something that the rest of the district is not doing. So we have talked with a learning partner that has the capacity to be able to share some of these nuances and structures with all of our schools because we definitely feel that it will benefit all of our schools in moving forward. So we are bringing that contract forward, split between 2 grants. One, obviously the SIG 1000G, which is mandated to be used for the purposes of these 3 schools. So we will be taking approximately $170,000 from that particular source of federal funding. And the remaining balance of that federal funding will come from our ESSER funds to support the remaining schools in the district. So that total is coming collectively out of 2 grants and is brought tonight because we have to adopt learning partners, these particular learning partners for those 3 schools.
Okay. Motion to approve the SIP learning partner proposal from Wested in the amount of $510,550.
So moved. Second.
Any questions? Secretary call the roll.
Schubert,
Yes.
Guerrero,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Olivas.
Yes.
Arroyo, LaShay.
Yes.
And let me say, I forgot to say that each of the schools also picked other learning partners that are on the state approved list that we still have grant dollars left in the grant to be able to facilitate. So Cowherd, for example, selected Avid and they wanted to engage in Avid practices. I'm not sure if Cowherd's in the house tonight, but we are definitely looking to be able to allow them funding to do so. I know that Rollins picked another learning partner, which I think is Teach Plus. And we have met with Teach Plus, and they are able to do just some of those things, as well as Waldo picked Education Direct. And so again, we're still honoring the work of those SLTs, but that's not on the same level of comprehensive nature. So if we come back with smaller contracts just for smaller projects for this, there's still funding left in that grant. That grant was about $500,000. So there's still money for those schools to be able to do those smaller projects with the partners that their school leadership teams selected. So I want to say that because I think it's important if that staff did that work this summer, that we're honoring their choices as well. So I just want to say that in case it comes back. Item number 6 is an approval basically that we can engage in receiving. So normally if we get donations, if you will, they come through F&P. This was a little bit bigger in nature than a donation because of the amount of this, but the Dunham Foundation had an RFP out on the street for local community organizations to bond together to provide services for students for grant dollars. And so one of those, one of the large organizations that was funded put together a proposal with, I believe, 3 or 4 community partners to do what they're calling STEM Ignition. And that proposal was funded by Dunham. It will not cost the district any funds. We will have in-kind contributions, in-kind cost where needed at middle schools for kids who stay after school. We do bus them home, but we do have a portion of that, a great portion of that is reimbursed. Also with after school, we do feed children, and that again would be an in-kind contribution. But once again, we are reimbursed for that because we're a SEP district. So we're asking the board to approve our participation with this entity that is going to be providing STEM after-school activities for all of our elementary and middle schools. And they're going to do 1 day a week each, I believe the proposal said, for these particular sites. That is what this action item is. It's not a cost directly to the district.
Motion to approve the STEM Ignition proposal funded by the Dunham Foundation.
So moved.
Second.
Secretary call the roll.
Guerrero,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Schubert,
Yes.
Lache,
Yes.
Arroyo,
Yes.
Olivas.
Yes.
Okay, the next item is the new leaders proposal, and that is the national entity that works with our principals and has historically worked with our principals. They are completely grant funded as well. This proposal, they will continue to work with the principals, which is funding out of one bucket. This proposal is for them to then work with our assistant principals in building our pipeline, which we have all done so well. We have been able to move assistant principals up into principalship roles. And so this is just a continuation of that, developing our staff at the higher levels so that we will continue to have a pipeline available to us. So it's assistant principals and our executive coaching.
Okay, motion to approve the new leaders proposal in the amount of $68,300.
So moved.
Second.
Any
It
questions?
says it's paid by ESSER dollars. Is that right?
I believe that'll be paid by ESSER dollars, yes.
Okay.
I know it's in the memo.
Yeah.
Secretary call the roll.
Arroyo,
Yes.
Olivas,
Yes.
Guerrero,
Yes.
Lache,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Schubert.
Yes.
And the next item, we actually are all set. We're on track. We're ahead of schedule to bring to the board on August 20th a resolution for the tentative budget. And the resolution for the tentative budget allows the budget to go on display for 30 days before the September meeting, at which the board has to do a final budget approval. However, in an effort to be ahead of the game and not give you the same night the presentation, Dr. Engel has an update because the presentation that the board approved as a tentative budget in June has changed slightly. So the numbers tonight are going to be more in line with the numbers that you will see in 2 weeks at the board meeting that you will then have to vote on for us to put on display for 30 days. So I believe Dr. Engel's going to do a very brief overview of those changes from June.
Yeah, thank you. So I'm going to try to keep this a little bit short and brief here. We can go through the tentative budget timeline here. So tonight, as you can see, we're going to full board. On the 20th, we're doing the resolution to adopt the FY25 budget. It'll go on public display the very next morning for 30 days. And then it'll go for a public hearing on the September the 23rd, and then approval that same evening. Next slide. These are the budget assumptions. They're pretty much the same as they were before. The only things that have been added into the budget where any type of extended school year grants for FY24 that go through September were in FY25, and the FY25 allotments for those federal grants and state grants were also updated and put into the FY25 budget. Next slide. So here's the tentative budget by summary of fund here. So these are all revenues coming in. As you can see, most of our money comes into the education fund, about 76.4%. O&M at 7.3, all the way down for a grand total of $277 million worth of revenue for FY25. This slide is just a representation that kind of breaks down to the pie chart of where that money is allocated, and kind of just showing it's, as you can see, a vast majority again is in the ed fund. And if you add an O&M, you're more than 85% of our budget for next year. All right, next slide. So this is revenue by source. The one thing that has changed is we are a little bit less federal dependent. There's a little bit less federal dollars in FY25 as comparative to FY24. You can see the state portion is definitely up. We're at 64% state funded, 20% local funded at 55.1 million, and about 16% federally funded at 44.2 million. Next slide. So this is the expense by fund. As you can see, the biggest fund that we expend from is the education fund. We're looking at just shy of $205 million for this upcoming year. O&M at just shy of 20 million, debt service at 12.8, transportation at about 16, Social Security IMRF at about 5.5, and capital projects at about 17.5 for 276 million worth of expenditures for FY25. Again, broken down, as you can see, education fund, biggest one at 74% of expenditures, and O&M at 7%. Next slide. So this breaks it down by object and location. So this shows you the salaries, the benefits, purchase services that the district will be using for FY25. And again, almost 60% of our budget is salaries and benefits. Purchase services come in at 16.6, supplies and materials at 7.3, and capital outlay at 7.4, other objects including special education at 9.2, for grand total, again, expenditures at 276 million and change. Again, this is visually a breakdown representation of where those object codes come from. You can see, again, salaries and benefits. So in summary, revenues right now are greater than expenses by $760,000 anticipated for FY25. Any questions? Thank you.
Okay. All right. And the final item, I need the board to, let's talk about these dates. So after meeting with our strategic planning entity, I have some additional information as promised. And we are in progress now, the district in the readiness phase, which is phase 1. However, that will shortly be followed by the second phase, which is the phase where we really involve all of our stakeholders. And what they have shared is that there will be an orientation for our stakeholder group, which we are going to work to get that group identified over the next 2 to 3 weeks. But they were looking at Thursday dates. So they're including the orientation 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 dates for that phase 2. Within the 5 dates, the orientation, I believe, is not very lengthy. I'm not sure of the exact amount of hours for that, but they're proposing Thursday, September 12th. And again, that would be virtual. So whoever's on the committee could handle that one. And I believe that could be an hour to maybe just talk about the process. The other 4 dates are a little longer, definitely the middle 3. There is a data retreat component. There is a vision retreat component, and there is a setting direction retreat component. That would be where the actual strategic planning committee would convene on those dates. They are proposing Thursday, September 19th, Thursday, October 17th, and Thursday, November 14th. And actually, Lisa, I believe we propose moving the October 17th date to a potential earlier date in November. We proposed at looking at the week before. So we looked at November 7th as a possible date, or October, looking at earlier date in October, doing possibly October. Lisa, do you remember that other date? I think we said October 3rd. So the real issue is not necessarily those Thursday night dates, it's the time. So each of those dates, because they're only proposing 1, 2, 3, 4 sessions to really do that deep work, because in between there actually that's when we're going to solicit responses and information based upon what we've already done, allowing each of our stakeholders, particularly our internal stakeholders, to look at what the committee has done, and then allowing them time to respond and to give feedback and to weigh in so that we can add their actual individual feedback to the plan. Part of doing that, they need that month-long time in between. Those sessions, though, they are proposing to be between 6 and 7 hours. They said for some school districts, they've been able to do 2 to 8 as a potential window. That could be the later half of the day, or they wanted to know if the board, since I know that our board participated fully last time and is interested in participating fully this time, for those 4 dates in question, if the board would be interested in doing that, maybe a morning time slot. What I shared was that we definitely want to continue to have our in-district staff be a part of these sessions. And so because we don't like to put subbing hardships on our buildings, that we would be maybe looking at the latter half of the day. Like a 2 to 8 might actually work well for these meetings. Any thoughts from the board on Thursdays being the date? And then each of the 1, 2, 3, really 3 are the ones that they labeled with the lengthy hours. The 4th one would be the final plan meeting, and that would not have to be as lengthy, another hour. So we're looking at 3 dates over the course of the fall that we could potentially do at 2 to 8 p.m.
That's kind of a shift from what they did in the past.
Right. In the past, we had a different organization, and they did do what we were there for 3 hours, I think, in the evening,
Wow.
What
but it's
about
less
the,
meetings.
What about the community participants? What would be?
Right.
You know, I mean, we're talking about people that work or.
Well, we
that
have had community participants that meet with us regularly. So my advisory council meetings, we have our community partners that come to that. That's quarterly, once quarterly, and it's at 1:00 in the afternoon. Usually I'll look at Marissa because she always sets those up with our community partners, but all of our community partners are present at those. Our parents, I have parents that come out to the district leadership team. So the schools have SLTs, the district has a DLT. So our district leadership team, and we've been able to have parent leaders of our parent organizations attend those, and those have always been during the day. Again, they're not for the same amount of time. They're typically only 2 hours, but we do have parent participation that are leading those other parent organizations, which are the individuals that would serve on this committee. So that would cover community partners and parents. It would just be internal staff leadership as well as board leadership.
I could make it work if I had to, but I just think that that's an imposition on our staff and the board
So
and everybody else. It's not the way the last group ran.
right. So maybe we could ask them to half these and maybe add a couple. So we could do a 2-part data retreat where we have part 1 and part 2, where then we could fit back into our 3 hours in the evening like we did last time. So I'll go back to them.
What does it mean when we talk about fully engaged as a board? Like, what would fully engaged mean, and what does part-time engaged mean? If we could just look at that as well.
So last time, all 7 board members participated fully in all the strategic planning process part. The district needs assessment was a 1 day, and we had a representation of the board. But last time for the strategic planning, and that was not mandatory, it was optional, but the board, all 7 members participated, but that was in the evening. So I can go back to them and say that this is what we wish to do. We wish to have these in 2 parts, and then we could do 3 hours and 3 hours and finish the work of that retreat, as well as the visioning and the setting direction piece. Because again, remember the board and the strategic plan just does up through the goals, the core values, the visioning, that piece.
I was gonna say Saturday, but then staff would be like overtime, is that? Okay.
Yeah, we probably might not have as much staff participation as we do when it's during the week. Um,
Maybe you can go back to them and find out what they can do.
I'll ask for the evening slots, make it work. Is that better? Okay, so you're okay with Thursday nights? It's just the evening, the hours would be shorter. We could half the time. Okay, I'll go back to them with that, with a 3 hour, like a half the time.
Does that affect the staff if it's all of them are evenings? or-
No, if staff fully participated last time, we would just need to give them enough notice so that they could be present, or they could make sure that they had representation present. And that would be all of our unions. We'd have representation of our department staff, representation of our building administration and district administration. So we would just need to let them know. So I'll go back to them, speak to them tomorrow, and then we will have some final dates for the August 20th board meeting.
Devil's advocate, if it's more important to have staff here than board people, maybe it's better to have it during the day, like 2 to 5 or something. I don't know.
Well, the board, this is the board's chance to set the vision, which is what the IASB workshop talked about.
We'll say we go back and try to work on some time.
Yep. All right, I'll work on similar to what worked well last time, because all the groups fully participated last time, which was great. Okay. And the board, absolutely, Mr. Olivas, you could have your representation too, if that was something that the board wanted to do, if everybody couldn't
Met
make
with
it.
The other group met with the staff, some of the staff during the day. There was one large meeting during the day, and then they had these meetings in the evening. So the staff had a chance to, it was over at Cowherd, I remember that.
That was the district needs assessment portion where we went through the data. That was the very brand new, like we hadn't had any data collected in a while. We're doing the readiness part now where we're just kind of giving over the data that we've already taken up and we've collected based upon what they're asking for during the day. So,
All
Yep.
right. I'll go back
and
check.
again, we could look at compensating people too if they were going to give up their evening. I don't think we did that before, but I can look at Gentile. She attended fully last time. We did not. But if we really wanted to place our value in having staff come, we could compensate staff types to have them come and participate, just so we have that voice in the room. So I could also bring that back too.
Okay.
All right.
Be fine.
I think that would get us a better
Mhm.
turnout. Okay, great. Thank you. That concludes my report.
Okay. Motion to approve the following consent agenda is listed.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions? Secretary, call the roll.
Olivas,
Yes.
Schubert,
Yes.
Guerrero,
Yes.
Arroyo, Johnson,
Yes.
Lache.
Yes.
Okay, and on to finance with Dan.
Okay, so the Finance and Personnel Committee met today, and our next meeting is scheduled for September 9th at 5:30 PM here. And so we have quite a few press policies which were discussed at the previous FMP meeting and came to the board. And so was held over for additional time to review. There's a memo attached by Dr. Ballard for 17 IASB press board policies. And most of these are just minor changes, citations and things like that. So if there's no questions, I'd like to entertain a motion to approve these all in one vote.
So moved.
So the motion is to approve the following revisions to IASB press board policies A through Q.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Secretary, call the roll.
Schubert,
Yes.
Guerrero,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Olivas,
Yes.
Arroyo, Lache.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries. Next, during today's FMP meeting, we had quite a few positions that were brought forward, and all but one are being considered tonight under action under time constraints. As we know, the school year's coming around the corner. A lot of these are in response to getting ready for the school year. So we have 2 positions that are connected to the rec center, a PPA and two part-time noon hour supervisors. Also, we have a new position at the high school, which I think a lot of us will be should be excited about, and I certainly was when I saw it. And this is going to be a great addition. And so also it's not coming from local sources; it's coming from federal grant dollars, which makes it even better. And this is for the addition of a FTE high school division chair for student behavior and safety. And so I think over the past year, we've been hearing some feedback in regards to that, and this is going to go a long way to making a difference in the high school. So this is a great addition. Also, we have 1 position for a Jumpstart supervisor, and this is to support our early learning program. And then we have some overloads, and this is just to get some additional, this does not require hiring additional staff, but some staff can give up some time that they have to teach an extra class, and these are overloads at the we have 6 overloads at the for language arts at Waldo Middle School, and 26 overloads at the high school. And also we have an addition of 1 social studies teachers at the high school. And last is a motion for for adjusting the pay for the assistant director salaries. This affects 8 individuals, and this is something that's looked at periodically and just trying to catch them up. So those are under action. Are there any questions before we move forward? Okay. So the first one is a motion to approve 1 FTE pupil personnel assistant at the Resilience Education Center.
So move.
Second.
Secretary call the roll.
Guerrero,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Schubert,
Yes.
LaShay,
Yes.
Arroyo, Olivas,
Yes.
Motion carries. Next, motion to approve 2 FTE noon hour supervisors at the Resilience Education Center.
So move.
Second.
Any questions? Secretary call the roll.
Arroyo,
Yes.
Olivas,
Yes.
Guerrero,
Yes.
LaShay,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Schubert,
Yes.
Motion carries. Next, we have motion to approve 1 FTE high school division chair for student behavior and safety.
So move. Second.
Okay. Secretary call the roll.
Guerrero,
Yes.
Schubert,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Arroyo, LaShay,
Yes.
Olivas,
Yes.
Motion carries. Next, a motion to approve 1 FTE Jumpstart supervisor. Did I already say that one? No, okay. Yeah, motion to approve 1 FTE Jumpstart supervisor.
So move. Second.
Secretary call the roll.
LaShay,
Yes.
Schubert,
Yes.
Olivas,
Yes.
Guerrero,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Arroyo,
Motion carries. Next, a motion to approve 6.16 overloads for language arts at Waldo Middle School.
So move. Second.
Secretary call the roll.
Olivas,
Yes.
Schubert,
Yes.
Guerrero,
Yes.
Arroyo, Johnson,
Yes.
LaShay,
Yes.
Motion passes. Next, a motion to approve 26.1 overloads at East High School.
So move.
Second.
Secretary call the roll.
Arroyo,
Yes.
Olivas,
Yes.
Schubert,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Guerrero,
Yes.
LaShay,
Yes.
Motion passes. Next, motion to approve 1 FTE social studies teacher at East High School.
So moved.
Second.
Secretary call the roll.
Arroyo, LaShay,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Guerrero,
Yes.
Schubert,
Yes.
Olivas,
Yes.
Motion carries. And finally, a motion to approve the assistant director salary upgrade.
So move.
Second.
Secretary call the roll.
Arroyo. Yes. LaShay,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Guerrero,
Yes.
Schubert,
Yes.
Olivas,
Yes.
Motion
Okay.
carries. That concludes our report. Thank you.
On to curriculum and programs with, who's doing the report tonight?
I am.
Okay.
All right, we had our meeting, curriculum meeting, last Monday, July 15, here at the Administrative Center at 6 p.m. Our next curriculum meeting will be on Tuesday, August 20th at 6 p.m. On our last meeting, July 15, we had our Rollins Elementary School Improvement Plan by Principal Dr. Juan Corona and Assistant Principal Stephanie Messing. Hopefully I pronounced that correctly. Where they shared that 55% of their students met their expected goal in math. 41.6% of students met their expected growth math reading in English, and 44.9% of students met their expected growth in math reading in Spanish. And their goal was to have 60% of Rollins will meet their expected growth target in math and reading. They were really close in some of those areas. Also, to maintain an average daily goal of 95%. Their average daily attendance was 92%. They will continue to utilize data to drive decision-making, increase meaningful daily communication to solve the attendance issue. Other goals they had was 10% reduction of office discipline referrals, focusing on students with disabilities. Every student is getting the support they need from second step curriculum. And extracurriculum activities will continue next year. And they also highlighted that 21 students exited their access this year. We also had a lunch block proposal by our Kevin Martin, who's the associate principal for school improvement. He presented the 24-25 students will get 42-minute lunches, either preceded by or followed by a 6-minute passing period. Reading will be offered during the 42-minute period and as well as for a 90-minute period. The school will expand their Math Boost program and continue e-learning for credit recovery. There will be a new program, computer literacy elective for students, and there will be additional time for AP Chemistry and AP Biology for students. It was shared that there will be different kinds of interventions and support classes based on student need that will include college and career exploration classes such as ACT preparation, mental health support by Kids Matter, and some certification by the Aurora Fire Science Service, CPR and fire extinguishing certification. And I believe that's all got voted at our last whole board meeting. And then the summer also shared that the summer teachers attended the AVID training, and these teachers will help college and career exploration classes for high school students. Ms. Jalita Martinez also shared with us the back to school fair supply kits. That will be this Saturday, August 10th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at East Aurora High School. And this is the third annual back to school fair. Backpacks and supply kits will be provided to all students who have been registered. And it also was shared at the last meeting that about 90% or over 90% of students had already been shared. So I'm sure we're going to be giving a lot of backpacks. We also had our summer school review by Dr. Amy Engel. She shared that 85% of registered students participating in the summer program. Preschool focused on reading books, reinforced literacy. Elementary students participated in scholastic lit camp programs. For math, elementary students finished 2,733 lessons in total. Middle school students focused on ELA and math, and they completed 1,596 lessons in total. During the summer, 760 high school courses were finished in health, driver's ed, and credit recovery. And we had 32 high school students graduate from summer school. We also had a brief presentation by Dr. Rita Guzman with the dual language coaching support consulting proposal. Dr. Guzman shared that Dr. Sandra Mercuri Consulting agency will be able to provide 40 in-person learning opportunities for the dual language staff and administrators, including observations, feedback, and modeling. The team will work with language acquisition department to schedule coaching cycles and supportive observations through the school year. The projected cost is about $140,000, and that will be voted on later on tonight. Ms. Martinez also shared the school improvement plan for FY25 for the following 3 schools. There were Cowherd, Waldo, and Rollins. She shared the school improvement plan for 3 of them that were titled comprehensive schools that require approval. And this is a 4-year cycle, I believe. The first year was a planning year, and we're going into year 1 of implementation. She also ensured to know that this is a living and breathing document. And then Dr. Amy Engel also shared that the 90% of students have been registered for the fall, and we adjourn at 6:44 p.m. All right, and I believe we have 2 action items. The first one is a motion to approve the FY25 school improvement plan for Rollins Elementary School, Cowherd Middle School, and Waldo Middle School.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Secretary call the roll?
Schubert,
Yes.
Guerrero,
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Arroyo.
Yes.
Olivas.
Yes.
LaShay.
Yes.
All right. A motion to approve the purchase of service from Sandra Mercuri, educational consultant, in the amount of $140,000.
So moved.
Second.
Secretary call the roll?
Arroyo.
Yes.
LaShay.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Guerrero.
Yes.
Schubert.
Yes.
Olivas.
Yes. That concludes the report.
Okay. Buildings and grounds with Bruce.
Okay, Building and Grounds met earlier this evening. We'll meet again September 9th at 6 p.m. here at the Admin Center. There are 3 action items for the board's consideration this evening. The first is action item 8B1. I need a motion to approve the purchase of 1,850 Apple iPads for grades K through 1 from Apple Inc. in the amount of $699,207.50.
So move.
Second.
Secretary call the roll?
Schubert.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Guerrero.
Yes.
Olivas.
Yes.
Arroyo. LaShay.
Yes.
Action item 2, 8B2 is motion to approve the purchase of 3,900 Dell Chromebooks for grades 2 through 5 from Dell Technologies in the amount of $1,301,989.
So move.
Second.
Secretary call the roll?
Guerrero.
Yes.
Schubert.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Arroyo. LaShay.
Yes.
Olivas.
Yes.
Action item 8B3, I need a motion to approve the addendum to First Student, First Alt for the 2024-2025 school year to provide transportation for District McKinney-Vento students in the amount of $1,344,223.71.
So move.
Second.
Secretary call the roll?
LaShay.
Yes.
Schubert.
Yes.
Olivas.
Yes.
Guerrero.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Arroyo.
Okay,
That's all.
and it was brought to my attention that we have 2 introductions tonight.
Thank you. First off, we'd like to introduce Raymond Mullen as the new Dean of Students at East Aurora High School. Mr. Mullen has over 24 years of experience in education and has served as a principal, assistant principal, Dean of Students, and Director of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. Major accomplishments include improving McKinley Elementary's designation from targeted to commendable and leading diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives at Fenwick High School. He holds an educational specialist degree in educational leadership from Concordia University, 2 master's degrees, a master's in teaching and learning, differentiated instruction, and a master's of science in educational leadership from the University of St. Francis, and a bachelor's degree in elementary education from Millikan University. Welcome, Raymond. I'd also like to welcome Melinda Thompson as our new Assistant Director of Special Education. Melinda Thompson has served over 10 years in the field of education. She served as a paraprofessional, a classroom teacher, a case manager, and most recently served as both the Assistant Director and Director of Specialized Services at Catalyst Maria Charter School in Chicago, Illinois. In this role, she implemented IDEA procedures, ensured compliance with Chicago Public School and federal regulations, as well as supporting special education personnel. In this role, she achieved 100% on-time IEP compliance and evaluations and exceeded expectations in a recent audit. Melinda holds a bachelor's in elementary education, a master's degree in special education, and a master's of educational leadership with a principal endorsement, all from Lewis University. Welcome, Melinda.
All righty, so that concludes our, so motion to go executive session for the purpose of discussing pending litigation, the appointment, employment, performance, compensation, and dismissal of a specific employee.
So move.
Second.
Secretary call the roll.
Olivas,
Yes.
Schubert, Guerrero,
Yes.
Arroyo, Johnson,
Yes,
LaShay.
Yes.
okay, and we won't have any action tonight. Okay.
So move.
Second.
Secretary call the roll?
Arroyo. Olivas,
Yes.
Schubert, Johnson,
Yes.
Guerrero,
Yes.
LaShay.
Yes.
Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Secretary call the roll?
LaShay,
Yes.
Schubert,
Yes.
Olivas,
Yes.
Guerrero,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Arroyo.
There we go.